Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Bush League Huddle. Episode 9 already, guys. Man, this is flying. I feel like we just started this yesterday. This is amazing. Before we start, I want to say about an early happy birthday to fellow Potter Fabio, who's turning the lovely age of 38, I believe. Am I right?
Yeah, 38. Yes,
They
yes.
s-
Thank
they
you.
s- they say that that's when you really hit your stride in life. So you have
Listen,
a
I'm
big year ahead.
I'm like a fine wine. Okay, I'm just getting better with fucking age. Let me tell you.
You're
Yeah,
basically 40.
I'm basically 38
You're basically
because that's exactly what I am.
basically, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And on that note, huge shout out to Steph for throwing you a huge surprise birthday party. Your face was priceless, dude.
yeah.
You were in shock. You were definitely 150% surprised.
Well, I definitely did not expect to be walking into my surprise birthday party. So yeah, huge shout out to my girlfriend. She did a fantastic job of getting everyone together and making it a very memorable moment. So I know she's gonna be listening to this podcast, like because she supports the pod. So Steph, you're listening. Thank you very much. You know that it really touched me, and then you touched me later, and yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Let's hope her
I
parents
was
are not listening to
I
this
was not
episode.
expecting that.
Um,
Fab, your parents? Do your parents listen to the pod?
No, my parents don't even know my birthday's tomorrow.
okay.
My dad's missed my birthday. I think the last like 8 years. I think.
Yeah, I
Normal.
think we get to a certain point. It's like, yeah, whatever. It's okay. It's fine.
It's just a birthday.
Yeah, at this point, at this stage in our lives, but
Yeah.
nevertheless, happy birthday, Fab! All
Happy
the
Thank
birthday,
you very
best
Fab.
for
much.
the 38th
And
year,
thank you
and
for both of you guys attending too. It was very nice. Um,
absolutely,
I think the birthday was sponsored by the Bush League Huddle Podcast. I made it a point of saying that during my speech. So
you
thank you
did,
very much.
you did, you
Not paid
did.
for, but definitely sponsored.
Yeah, yeah. Raj had a pretty interesting weekend as well. He became Coach Raj for his son's soccer league. How'd that go this weekend?
Yeah, it was great. So my son, yes, indeed, is starting U4 soccer. So he's turning 4 next week. So I and another one of the daycare dads are like volunteer coaches. So we're gonna help out for the next 12 weeks. It was
Nice.
great. He loves soccer. He could if there's he'll kick anything. He'll kick crayons. He'll kick papers.
I love it.
He'll kick nothing. He'll kick grass. So he loves soccer. He scored like 2 goals. But of course, there had to be, that dad who's like, "Come on, son, come on, score on the other net. What the hell are you doing? Fuck, fuck, fuck!" Like
Swearing?
not swearing at his kid, but just like
No, but
how,
swearing in
yeah,
general
yeah,
too.
and he was like he was getting on the field. He was getting in the field of play,
My
and he had his
God,
his little fanny pack too. Like it was so
these
funny.
kids are 4, man.
It's
Like,
pretty ridiculous.
yeah, like
Yeah,
come on.
it was,
Yeah.
so it was very cringeworthy. A lot of the other dads were like, "This guy just like he just doesn't get it," and like it didn't ruin it, but it made the day like just a little bit of a blemish. But otherwise, it was a great first day watching him play soccer.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, I don't know, man. Those people gotta calm down at 4 years old. You know, like these kids just want to go out there and run around and have fun. Like, isn't that the goal? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Your kid's probably not the next Messi. Like, I didn't see him play, but like to scream at kids at 4 years old, I think is a bit overkill.
He's definitely not the next Messi. He kept picking up the ball, so like
There you go.
he's
Exactly.
probably on the wrong sport. So.
Poor
He's
kid,
no.
man.
You know what he is? He's probably 4 years old. That's what he is. He's probably
Yeah,
4 years
that's
old.
exactly. Yeah.
He's probably 4.
He's not the next. No, he's 4. He's 4. That's stupid. Let the kids play. Let the
Yes,
kids play.
yes.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and I myself, honestly, huge weekend again, jam packed. Already, look at this. Already Monday night. I can't believe it. Time is flying. Fab's birthday on Saturday night.
Dude,
Then
it's already fucking June. Like it's June
Marco
in a few weeks. Like
Marco convinced me to play golf at 7:20 in the morning the next day on Sunday, which was very fun. I'm definitely very rusty playing golf, so looking forward to actually those lessons on Thursday because they're going to be much needed. And then had to come home, kind of veg for a bit with the kids, and then boom, a baptism on Sunday afternoon. So pretty jam packed weekend, and they're just gonna continue.
You had a baptism yesterday after you went golfing?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Power to you, my friend. Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah. He picked me up pretty early. No, you know what? Power to Marco, man. He had to get up. He got up, I think, at like 5:30 or something to
Mm.
get up and get ready. Then he picked up Stamati. Then he came all the way to the West Island to pick me up. Then we went all the way to Telbun to golf. Then he came all the way back to the West Island to drop me off. Then he went back to Laval to drop Stamati off. And then he was going to Huntsic for a CF walk with his daughter and his wife. Like he really jams every last second. Like he can't
Good for
be
him.
sitting down for five. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
good for him.
something, man. He's
He
something.
does. Yeah. Motor's always running with
Can we
Marco.
pick
That's
him in
true.
fantasy football?
Yeah, dude. He really likes to slot out every last second of his free time.
So that was my next question. What position would he play? You would play slot receiver? Think about it. You see Marco.
I don't see him going over the middle of the field. You want to be
Absolutely not.
knowing Marco, I think he's a bit averse to pain. So
Yeah,
I
he's
think
what the
kicker.
Italians call delicat.
I think kicker, punter, coach,
His back is always
coach,
hurt. His
coach,
back's always up.
coach, coach.
Coach.
Make a great coach.
Oh, we can't draft coaches, so I guess Marco's on the bench.
Well, guys, honestly, back by popular demand, we got really good feedback from our last episode. People enjoyed the kind of news or noise segment part of the pod, so we thought we'd keep it rolling from last week and keep that train going. So, without further ado, we'll start off with our first topic. Caleb Williams actually had a rough start to OTAs, per sources. Apparently, throwing multiple INTs in 7-on-7 drills, and then also allegedly being benched for throwing, I believe, seven in a row. I don't know. I've seen it on a couple of Twitter feeds, but I'm not sure. I don't know if that seven in a row kind of made sense, but anyways. Question for you, Raj, should I say?
Roz,
Raj,
the Roz.
news or noise? Is it normal that he's struggling, or is it cause for concern?
Yes, it's normal. He's a rookie. He's a freaking rookie, and like I've seen this headline like so many times for rookie QBs. I think Mahomes threw like 3 or 4 picks. His first 7-on-7 drill. Trevor Lawrence did so as well. Justin Herbert as well. Like it's normal that rookies struggle, and the Bears defense is fucking good. Like it's really really good. I don't know exactly if like do they have Montez Sweat, but there's Kevin Byard. There's like their secondary. The corners are really good. So it's extremely normal that he struggles. And even the coach was like, look, it's a work in progress. We want to see progress one day after day after day, and that's what he is attesting to. So it sounds like it's getting better. Very normal for rookies to. It doesn't matter like if he was a Heisman Trophy winner. It's the NFL. It's pro style defenses. It's normal that he struggles.
Yeah, I agree. Plus, I feel like he's under the microscope a lot more than maybe other quarterbacks too. I mean, do we hear about Drake May throwing all these touchdowns, all these interceptions, or Jane Daniels or anything like that? No, it's just everything's about Caleb Williams right now. So this is noise. I don't have an issue with this at all. If we get closer to organized training camps, then yeah, I would have an issue with it. But in the meantime, let the kid let him throw the interceptions now. That way, he doesn't throw them later on in the regular season.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think you said it right. Is he's under kind of that microscope? He was the first overall pick, so kind of all the lights are going to be in his direction. Even though like you said, um, you had of May and Jaden Daniels who were taken right behind him, but that number one overall pick is always going to be scrutinized.
Um, who I didn't mention actually, JJ McCarthy though, same thing with him as well. Like he's been in the spotlight a little bit too now, and I'm only saying that because it just makes me jog my memory a bit. I saw him too struggling during OTAs, and everybody who's listening to the podcast knows I'm not exactly a JJ McCarthy fan, but it's OTAs. Like who cares? Like let the kid struggle. Like it's normal. Like it's to be expected with them coming into a new system. And also, I know Roger hit the fact that that the Chicago's have a very good defense, but he's playing with an NFL level defense, regardless of whether it's Chicago or not, right? Like these guys are just faster. They know how to pick guys off, pick quarterbacks off. They know they're looking at the quarterback's eyes as he's throwing the ball. Like it's he's not at that level yet, but that's why they're doing OTAs.
Yeah, and I think Keenan Allen. I know Keenan Allen for sure was not available. I don't recall if DJ Moore, Rumadunzi were on the field as well, but for sure Keenan Allen wasn't. So he didn't have his full complementary receivers as well.
I think DJ Moore was there, but I know Rome tightened up his hamstring, if I'm not mistaken, so he wasn't completely participating. But well, it's OTAs.
This should have no bearing on where anyone drafts him. Like, for the record, like if anyone's using this to say like stock up, stock down, like it's a slow news day then for those people. Like,
No, but
fuck
that's
off.
what I think that's what it is in general. It's just right now these guys are grasping for any type of news they can get. So this is like this is what we call, I guess, clickbait, because everyone saw
Yes.
that and everyone was like, "Oh my God, retweet here, retweet there," and then it was just everywhere, all over, Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I honestly, I think it's the same thing. There's a transition from college to the NFL. So to Fab's point, I'd rather him be throwing his interceptions now than pulling a Peyton Manning and throwing what, like 40 in your first year. So um, yeah, I think we're all in agreement that it's just kind of media, making noise where there's no news to be had. So we'll move on. Kind of in the same area of the news or noise segment, but again, with media trying to, you know, make a story out of some, or out of nothing. But Dak Prescott was in an interview last week and said, "I don't play for money." He was quoted saying that he does not play for money. I never have. So it sparked a lot of outcry from the media outlets and all over, especially Kyle Brandt. I don't know if you guys saw that, what he posted on Twitter. He had like a minute and a half long thing, like, "Hey, if you don't play for money and you never have, rip up your contract, play for the veteran minimum, prove it, go out and prove it that you're only going to pay for pennies, and like take all that money, tell the owner take all that money and sign like talent around me. Don't take any of the money." So, question for you, Fab, is the media blowing it out of proportion, or are they right criticizing his words from a guy who's making north of $40 million a year and most likely going to be making north of 50 on his next contract?
It's noise. Actually, I'll play both sides. It's noise. What he said is noise, in the sense of that that's just him being PC for the people that are interviewing him and all that stuff. Whatever. The quote is a quote. Who cares? What is news though is that Dak Prescott is basically playing for a contract next year. And that's something that we can't forget about. I'm not saying he's playing for a contract with Dallas. He's playing for a contract with the NFL, because there's going to be teams out there they're going to want to get a quarterback of Dak's caliber, and he's playing basically as an audition for the rest of those teams out there that are eligible in that sense. So in that sense, I think it's news, because Dak last year, I don't know if you guys know this, because I was a little bit surprised when I brought this up as a stat. He finished QB3 in fantasy points over the season.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
he had a great
Fantastic.
year.
He had a
He had a great year.
fantastic year. We forget about it, how accomplished of a fantasy quarterback he is. And so for me, and like I don't know if we're going to get into the rankings later on or where I would draft him, but Dak is never necessarily routinely spoken about as a top 5 quarterback, right? And you tie in the fact that he's playing for a contract, he's still in his prime. He wants to be paid as a $55 million contract. He does, regardless of what he said, and he's going into the season with a little bit of a more of a swagger or a fuck you opinion about himself. Like Dak could easily do quarterback 5 next year or quarterback 4. Like regardless of, and this is in addition to the fact that they lost Michael Gallup and Tony
He lost a lot
Pollard
of
and everything
weapons.
like
He
that.
lost a lot of weapons. And
You know,
thanks for keeping Pollard, by the way. I'm glad you.
it's Pollard or Pollard.
You say
It
Pollard.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what his name is. I just feel like that he's still gonna have a primed to have a great season, and he's playing for real money. So
Yeah.
like I'm all in on Dak next year a little bit, right? Like a QB5, QB6, like I'm buying right there. 100%.
I think he got aggregated. And we were talking about this in our group chat. Like, Nak, you had shared the exact quote, and then I was like, okay, like, yeah, this makes sense. And when you read the full article, yes, he says that, but I feel like he was just mostly saying, like, I don't care about being the top paid QB. Like, I'll let my agent do the talking. I'll let my agent do all the work for me. That's what I kind of got the sense out of. So I feel like he got aggregated because Ian Rappaport just posted that, like, I don't play for money, blah, 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 the point, the fact of the matter is the Cowboys are being let off the hook because they should have extended him a year ago. And he's playing on a $60 million cap hit, which is absolutely ridiculous. And because of that, they haven't been able to improve their team. I know we have some additional Cowboys content during this pod, but Fab, to your point, like the supporting cast worries me a little bit. Like they didn't improve anyone. Sure, Gallup is always injured, but there's not really a secondary pass catcher aside from Jake
Cooks.
Yeah, I'm not Cooks is like, I've always liked Cooks, but he's very injury prone, and he's a bit of one trick pony at this age. At this stage, so
he's older for sure.
He's older for sure. So to the original question, I think it's noise. I think he got aggregated. I think to Fab's point, I think that's a good point. Like he's in a contract year and he's still in the prime of his career, and I think he's so talked down upon that he's become underrated because of Cowboys this, they don't make the play, they don't advance to the second round, blah blah blah. Like he's become underrated, which is crazy.
That's a very good point. I also want to mention, if I'm not mistaken, so you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I heard this the other day, they can't franchise tag him.
I believe that's correct because he's already been franchised, and also it's the last year of the deal, no?
Right.
You're pretty good with the cap.
Yeah, you're better with contracts than I am. But I heard that on another podcast, so that's why I'm a little bit more confident with saying it. But he can't be tagged after this.
He was tagged already?
He's been tagged already. Yeah,
I believe so.
Already. Yeah.
So maybe if you don't continue to tag, you cannot tag. Like if you go a year and tag him and then sign him long term, you can't tag him again.
Because I think you could tag 3 straight years.
Because you could tag 3 straight years. Yeah, no one does because it's just stupid money at that point. But I mean, look, he did say that yes, my agent is going to figure that out, but he kind of double dipped and like went back against the grain and said like, yeah, my agent will figure out what my worth is and what my leadership brings and so like for me hearing that, like you do care about the number, man. Like you can't say you don't care about the number, because if you didn't care about the number, maybe you would say, hey, like give me 20 million, give me 30 million, like do what Brady did. Like Brady did that his whole career, right? Like he literally took less, and he was the legit counterpart of, I don't care about the money, I want to win. He's got 7 rings to show for that, right? Dak Prescott could talk all he wants, but he's not been to even a championship game. So for him to start talking like that, I think I'm not going to go as far as saying it's noise, but I mean, look, the media presses you in your face, but I think he kind of did like a roller coaster during that interview, kind of, or teeter totter, kind of went back and forth.
Yeah, like I agree with you, Nak, like as you're saying it, but again, I want to reiterate, like doesn't mean we let the Cowboys off the hook, because they should have finalized this earlier.
100%.
And it's to Dak's, it's his prerogative to get as much as he can. Like he shouldn't be saying this. Like I get your point. He shouldn't be saying it.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Even if he got aggregated, because now it's going to go back to him. Like, yeah, take less money, but no, you shouldn't take less money. It's not his fault the Cowboys have severely mismanaged their cap situation.
Completely agree. I'm an advocate of players getting whatever they want and get as much as you want when you can, right? Because you make that generational wealth, and this is a way to do it. But yes, to your point, we're talking about where he stacks up, and he's been a top 5 QB. Yes, they did lose a lot of talent, so I'm curious to see. Look, they got to pay him, they've got to pay CD, and they got to pay
one of the offensive line.
One was a linebacker.
Yeah. Van Der Esch?
No. The stud.
Micah Parsons. Yeah.
Micah Parsons.
Oh, Micah Parsons. Yes.
I think one of them will not be there.
Well, no. Like it's how they're going to do it.
Sure.
You have literally, you have legit. You could almost say you have the top the top one of the top linebackers that's like top 3 in the NFL. You have top 3 wide receiver and top
Top
5, I
two,
guess,
top
five,
three
top
pass
top
rusher.
8 QB.
Oh, QB. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
You know, top 8 QB, the top 1 or 2 wide receiver right now. Like he balled last year, and then you have Micah Parsons, who's if you say TJ Watt, Garrett, and
I knew.
Micah, like there's those three you could name. Those three could be.
I knew you were gonna say TJ Watt first.
Oh, okay, but I say TJ
I,
Watt first because
I'm
he is the
kidding.
best.
Yeah.
But I digress. Um, we're gonna go into a fantasy impact segment here. So basically, with the addition of Kirk Cousins for the Falcons, um, I want to see if we'll see, what kind of increase are we going to see in fantasy production at their, for their skill players and where they're, you know, currently ranked. So right now you have Bijan ranked RB3. You have Drake London ranked QB wide receiver 14. Kyle Pitts tight end 7, and then obviously Cousins at QB 17. So just looking at that, I think Bijan is okay rated as the number 3. Like I said, I've said it previously. I really like Josh Jacobs to be up there, and I think in that offense with I think more stable offense with the coach. I think I like him more. Bijan, I think you said it, Raj. I think you need like a sample size with a guy who kind of knows how to manage him because last year was just a train wreck with his usage. So I don't know. I think he's slotted into okay, but personally, I don't know if RB3 would be too rich for my blood.
So I'm okay with RB3. Zach Robinson, who's the new offensive coordinator for the Falcons, came from the McVay coaching tree, and we know how McVay coaching tree running backs do well. And they
Hmm.
have one of the best offensive lines in the league, led by Chris Lindstrom. So um, thanks for mentioning that, Nat, because like I did say that like doesn't have necessarily the body of work to warrant this high of a ranking, but the talent is there, and then, as you said, the coaching should in theory be way better than it was with the disaster that it was last year. I think the QB will help.
Like, would you
Why?
go Gibbs before him?
No, I wouldn't because I think Gibbs is on a pitch count because of his size.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
I
even
think
Jonathan Taylor, you'll take the Bijan upside before the Jonathan Taylor,
Taylor
maybe
Taylor's
injury risk.
I have something where like Taylor's situation, like it's kind of scarred me a little bit. Like the previous like 2 years where like I would have to get him at a big discount to be able to take him. And it's just something I have where like if you've missed a significant amount of time or you've been injured in back to back years, I might just move you down in the rankings. So I'm okay with Bijan at 3. But again, like the supporting cast is really good on that front.
And then you have Drake London kind of slotting in at that number 14 wide receiver. So basically, right in front of him, you have like Ayuk, Pittman, Harrison, and then right behind him, you have like Mike Evans, DJ Moore, Debo Samuels, Nico Collins, Waddle, Diggs, Cup, Metcalf, like all these guys that are going all out or ranked right now after London. So personally, I think wide receiver 14 is incredibly high for that's like almost borderline WR1 right there. So definitely solidified as WR2, but I don't know. Like Nico Collins in that offense or even like a man, even DJ Moore, I'm gonna love to see what he can do with him, but um, man, I don't know. I think they're putting a lot of stock into this offense, really like running full steam. So for me personally, I think 14 is a bit high.
I can understand why you would say it's a little bit high, but I'll argue against that. I think it's actually appropriately ranked. Just looking at the guys he's pinned around, they are wide receiver ones, and we do know something about Kirk Cousins is that he peppers his wide receivers with targets. Drake London last year finished wide receiver 37. Nothing to necessarily be super excited about, but people have always seen flashes of what he can be if he has the right quarterback throwing to him, and he hasn't had that since he's been in the league. So I think him being ranked as a mid-tier wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, I think that's appropriately ranked. You also figure that wide receivers typically make that jump in their year 3, and this is his year 3. Their schedule is also very, very nice for wide receivers, as well as if you want to take into account the strength of schedule and all that. I would take him above Mike Evans, above DJ Moore. Maybe not. I think Nico Collins is the one that bothers me a bit, but then again, you compare it to the mouse to feed that exists in Houston right now. And I know that everyone is over the mood with CJ Stroud and all that stuff, and I get it. I'm not saying the guy's not going to repeat what he did in year 1, but Kirk Cousins does have that body of work of throwing to his wide receiver 1, and CJ Stroud really liked Tank Dell before he got injured, and really liked Nico Collins while he was there. Like they all ate, so to speak, but now you got Stephon Diggs in there too. So that's why I'm a little bit more hesitant in reserves. Plus, you even look at the rankings. Collins and Diggs are ranked like right next to each other. If I'm drafting in that spot and I'm like, those are my guys that are available to me, Drake London to me has the highest upside and a pretty decent floor.
So we mentioned body of work a lot, but London doesn't have much of it, and to his credit, very very bad QB play. But I'm not sure what type. You
Can
want to say
I
something
jump
fast?
in?
Yeah, jump
Yeah,
in.
I
Go
do.
go go.
He actually, listen, the guy has an average of 70 receptions his first 2 seasons and 900 yards.
It's not bad. You're right.
It's pretty good.
It's
It's
not.
pretty good for a guy with no quarterback play, and he would have probably been higher up in the fantasy rankings if he scored more touchdowns. So maybe some touchdown regression is around. The guy had 2 touchdowns last year. If he goes up to 6 or 7 next year, which is not impossible, all of a sudden he's looking at a decent wide receiver too.
So fair point. Fair point. I'm just not sure like what type of like when I'm trying to evaluate him in terms of as a player and also what type of fantasy player he'll be. Like he's not really a yards per catch guy. Don't think he's a PPR guy. He's not a big touchdown guy. He was 25th in red zone targets in 2023. Like that doesn't put him in wide receiver 14, which is as Nak said, borderline low end WR1. That's like close to WR3 range. So again, the QB was an issue, but just the fact that he wasn't targeted in the red zone enough, is that because he can't separate? I don't think he's the best separator either. He's more of a big body guy. He's not a super fast, speedy guy. And like 14 is fair, but I don't think I'm taking him over Mike Evans. Definitely not DJ Moore. Cooper Kupp, aside from injury concern, I don't think I take him over him either. And even Amari Cooper, which he's the tough one because if Watson's injured, that goes out of the wayside. So
Pause.
Waddle and Keenan Allen, I think they were in that range. Those are the ones where I start to maybe look into Drake London a bit further. But I know 14 is a bit high for me, I think.
How do you feel about doing a little bet 2 weeks in a row?
We're gonna lose. These bets are just 100%. Gonna lose their value.
No, they're not. No, they're not. So first of all, we have to start taking notes of this stuff. I get your points. I understand your concerns. I think he's more of a PPR guy than not, because I'm evaluating him within the microcosm of his horrible quarterback play and how he's still been able to put together some very solid seasons, considering the fact that he hasn't been scoring any touchdowns. But yes, you talk about the red zone targets and all that stuff. That could be a product of the offense as well. And he is a big guy. The guy's 6'4". Like, you're gonna tell me that he can't command targets in the red zone? They have to get to the red zone.
Good point. Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think we always talk about like how opportunity and ability exists within fantasy players to evaluate if they can actually do well or not. I think now Drake London finally has his opportunity, and I will bet that he will finish as a top 14 wide receiver. If anyone wants to take that bet with me. I don't know how the betting stuff works.
I'm gonna say no. It's a sandbagging bet. If you told me top 8, I'm taking that bet. But it feels like you're sandbagging a bit.
You want to do top 10?
Do top 8, and I will take the bet.
Oh my God! How much better odds? What is this? Vegas? They give you odds like this? What is this?
Top
Guys,
8, I'm taking.
he's not finishing top 8. Come on.
No, he's not fishing. I know he's
Come
not
on.
fishing top 8.
Come on.
I know that he's not fishing top
There's
8.
way
Put your
too
money
many
where your
wide
mouth is.
receivers.
Fuck.
Way too many wide
Okay,
receivers.
yeah, Roger, we finished top 2. Huh?
And there's obviously there's always going to be
Jesus.
those surprises. I don't even think he finishes
Guys,
top
14.
14 either.
I'm
I don't
giving you
think he
6
finishes.
spots of an odd over here.
I don't think he finishes top 14. There's always like that wild card. There's always going to be the best Jones that are like they're always going to be there at the top. So that occupies what 5, 6, 7 spots already. So he's got to be in that. And then there's always, like you said, there's always a couple surprises sprinkled in. So I don't know. I think, like I said, for me, 14 is a little bit rich. But let's move on. I think you have Kyle Pitts at tight end 7. This is Rogers' do not draft person ever again. But this one here, actually rated 8. Excuse me. I think this is perfectly rated. You have Kittle, Ingram, Kincaid, Andrews, McBride, Kelsey, and Laporta ahead of him. And then right behind him, you have Njoku, Ferguson, Godere, and TJ Hawkinson. So I think this is it. I think like this is where Kyle Pitts has no more excuses. It's not the offense. It's not Arthur Smith. It's not QB play. This is your last shot to show that you should have been drafted where you were drafted. Like this is really it. Um, this is year 4 for him.
He shouldn't have been drafted.
Did they pick up his? Did they pick up his option?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I should have done my research on that. I'm not sure because I was gonna say they might not pick up his option. Anyways, we'll move.
He shouldn't have been drafted that high.
No,
he should never have been drafted that high for sure. But
No.
if there's a year now where he's got like 0 excuses, it's this one. It's like
Yep.
you've got to show up and show out, or dude, it's time to move this guy out of your offense because he's got every opportunity to go and shine right now. And Kirk Cousins loves his tight ends. So
the Falcons have picked up their 5th-year option on
that's wild.
Kyle Pitts.
That's
wild. It was
wild.
done April 29th. So 10.8 million guaranteed salary.
Yeah. Listen, if anything, that should add some positivity to his draft stock because that just means he can be part of the offense.
The only way I have Kyle Pitts on my team is if he's tight end 2. I am not taking him as my number 1 tight end.
Someone's gonna grab him, especially if he's the 8th ranked. Like,
can't do it. Mike Singletary style. Cannot do it. I can't win with him. I can't coach him. Can't do it.
He's not Vernon Davis, that's for sure. But I gotta side with Knack on this. I think he is appropriately rated. Jake Ferguson is like ranked 10th. That's the only guy that I would knock above him, just because I'll mention the things we mentioned about Dak Prescott now and having a lack of weapons.
I think Jake Ferguson is underrated. Then, like 10th is.
I agree.
10 is really high.
But it's not so much that it's not so much he's underrated. It's just that like now all of a sudden the tight end landscape is stacked. Like you run down the top 8 guys, and they're all like household names. They're all guys that are going to do super well next year, or that you have the opportunity to do well next year. Like TJ Hawkinson is ranked 12th. At least his ADP is 12th or whatever this is.
Yes, I think that the injury plays a role in that. He's been hurt.
Well, it's also the quarterback too.
Yeah, for sure. It made a little bit of a difference.
It's the quarterback too.
My hate aside, like aside from the obvious guys like Laporta, Kelsey, Andrews, McBride, and again, sorry, Nak, I don't recall all the rankings, but like I'm taking Ingram before Pitts, Kittle,
he's
Njoku.
Njoku's right behind him. So
I take Ferguson. I think I'm taking Godere. No, maybe not Godere. It probably stops at Godere. Is it Goddard or I think it's Goddard? Anyway.
It's Goddard. It's not Godere.
We call him Godere.
There's no accent anywhere.
Shout out to Burris.
Chowdare.
Chowdare.
Kincaid is interesting. I think he hasn't put it all together yet, but not a bad year. 73 receptions,
He's higher up there too.
Yeah. And they're gonna run more 2 tight ends.
Kincaid was the product of who's the other one?
Dawson Knox.
He was injured a lot last year.
Yeah.
So he bounced into a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
But he's definitely the more athletic and better of the two.
Yes, agreed. With Diggs gone, I think there's opportunity there. So
Oh yeah.
There's about like aside from the obvious guys for me, like 3 to 4 guys I'm taking above Pitts if I remove my bias aside.
Yeah, and then obviously if we shift now to the last guy, the one driving the ship, you have Kirk Cousins, who's currently rated at QB 17. So little notable people above him would be Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert. You've got Goff, Caleb Williams, Tua, and
What?
then right behind him, you've got Lawrence, Stafford, Rogers, Deshaun, and Mayfield. So
So Tua's above him. Tua is
yeah,
ranked.
Tua's above him, which is
I think we should. I think we should
Tua's rated
scrap.
12th.
Is this
Yeah.
Fantasy Pros?
Yeah. We got
I
to.
think
Yeah.
we should scrap fantasy. Like I've used them
Yeah.
too. Like this is like Tua, like Jaden.
Yeah, it's a
Jaden
bit
Daniels.
it's yeah, but they also have Caleb Williams and Daniels ahead of him.
He was Cousins was on pace for 5,000 yards and 38 TDs before he got injured last year.
Honestly,
Like
the people behind him, the only person I'm looking at that I would draft before him is maybe Rogers.
Yeah. Same.
this is massive
I'm not going to draft
disrespect.
Stafford
Same.
before him. I'm not going to draft Trevor Lawrence before him.
No.
I'm not Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield. Like I'm going Cousins, but there's even like I'm taking him above Herbert.
100%.
Like I'm taking him above Jaden Daniels. Like you have that continuity.
Cousins teams lately they throw the ball. Like
Yeah.
whatever team he's on now,
Oh, dude, he's going to throw the
throw
ball.
the freaking ball. Like
Yeah.
it's not like balanced. It's not. It's they're gonna throw it. And even if Bijan is there, Bijan I think will be the benefactor of a lot of catches as well.
For sure.
It's almost as if they're going to throw it enough to support a wide receiver in the 14th spot. Almost.
Here he goes.
No, maybe.
Well,
But I'm not there yet.
They
with Drake. I'm
they
not there
also-
yet.
signed a
with
lot
Drake
of
London.
guys.
no,
They signed
yeah,
a lot of guys.
I was about to say they added a lot to the wide receiver rooms. Yeah, they had Rondell Moore,
Darnell
I
Mooney.
think. Darnell Mooney,
Mooney,
Rondell Moore, I
Moore.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
They signed
Roger,
a lot
I'm
of
busting
guys.
there, but like they did round out the wide receiver room quite a bit. But I do agree with your point. I think the largest benefactor is Bijan. I didn't get a chance to chime in earlier, but I think after CMC and Brees Hall, the only guy that I would want is Bijan Robinson. It's the only one where I can see a path to fantasy success for a running back. Because everyone else after that, I have trepidations for. I do.
All right, we'll move on that note. So basically, last week we spoke a little bit about Justin Jefferson and skipping OTAs, and but we missed out on a few other notable guys that kind of missed out. Guys like T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb. So basically, question for you, Raj. Which one's absence hurts most from a fantasy perspective, as well as a team's chances to making a potential Super Bowl run? Because these teams all really have Super Bowl or bust aspirations.
Yeah, like I alluded to it earlier, but to me it's easily CeeDee Lamb. Like the Bengals still have Chase. They drafted Jermaine Burton from Bama, which I know a lot of scouts liked. The Niners they still have Debo. I know a lot of us have reservations about him, but he's still a guy. CMC obviously, Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings has always been an underrated wide receiver on that team as well. So with the Cowboys, all they have to me, CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. He's getting up there in age and he's a one trick pony. Outside of that, their wide receiver depth is Jalen Tolbert and Cavante Turpin. And you guys know I love Jake Ferguson, but like there's an I am not
But they signed
necessarily.
Zeke.
Oh my god. He's healthy again. He's lost 20 pounds. He lost 20 pounds, Zeke. How many times have we heard that? Honestly, I don't think it's a slam dunk that CeeDee Lamb is not WR1 for me, because I think he's going to get absolutely peppered beyond belief with targets. Like to the point where, yes, he's going to get double covered, but I think he's going to be the main guy there. I see a massive year for him. Like from a fantasy perspective, but in terms of real life football and Super Bowl aspirations, like they have to resign CD. Like they can't afford to have any type of issues with him during training camp because he's
like
that
holdout style.
Hold out because he's that valuable to their offense because of the lack of depth.
It's a good point. I was actually going to go with T. Higgins. I feel like him holding out is really worse for both him and the Bengals. Like I think he's on a he. There's been all those trade rumors that are circulating about him recently,
But he
and
hasn't signed his tag, I believe.
yeah, so he's been a pretty important piece of the offense, especially that year that they made the Super Bowl run. I want to say that Burrow plays better when T. Higgins is there. I know that Jamar Chase is the guy, but you always want to have that top end wide receiver on the other side too. I feel like plus, Joe Burrow's coming back from his big injury and all that stuff too. I feel like T. Higgins is being undercut a little bit how much he actually presents to that offense and to and to their chances of even going far. Plus from a fantasy perspective too, right? Um, I'm not a fan of him sitting out of OTAs. I'll be honest. I know we said it's not that big of a deal, but I do. I think that's going to hinder him more than like you mentioned, Roger, with CD Lamb and even Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, and honestly, to that point, well, he can't attend OTAs because he's not signed the contract, so he's not
Oh,
even
there you go.
allowed to attend. But I think I agree with you in some of those points that like, Chase and Higgins have both been injured as well a lot, like their fair share. So it's nice to have like still a beast guy on the outside when one goes down, and then having them both. Um, Yes, to Roger's point, obvious answer is definitely CD Lamb, excuse me. Um, but I'm gonna say Brandon Ayuk. I think he was a huge part of that offense. He's that prototypical WR1 that that every team kind of looks for, and like Debo Samuel's not that. Like he's good, but he's also another guy who's really injury prone. They struggled last year when Ayuk missed a few games. So I think he brings an important part to that offense. I know there's rumors out there that he said he wants 30 million, and I'm really not sure that San Fran is going to do that. But I think he's a huge part of that offense, and I think they'd struggle a lot without him.
I love Ayuk. I think he's fantastic, super underrated. But like the offensive infrastructure can survive with CM, especially with CMC there, who could split out wide. And Debo, I agree, he's not that type of wide receiver. But they also drafted Ricky Pearsall.
Yeah,
Granted, a
yeah.
rookie, but also kind of a guy who's more of a route runner who could win outside of just kind of yak yards like Debo or rushing the ball
Hmm.
from different situations. So I think they're all fair points. It's just for me when I see what is what are the other options aside from either CeeDee Lamb, aside from either T Higgins, aside from either Brandon Ayuk. The Cowboys are the one who they've done an absolute disservice to their entire team. They've done a disservice to Dak Prescott this year with the lack of moves they've made. So I really think like it's CeeDee Lamb for me in that sense.
Such strong words coming from a Giants fan about the Dallas organization.
But I mean,
I
yeah,
mean,
I agree with it. I definitely agree with it. They
it's
definitely,
ridiculous.
it's on
The,
some, it's on par with kind of what the Raiders have done, right? Like,
it's worse.
yeah,
It's worse,
well, it's because
man.
they've handled the cap really horribly as well, right? Like and now they got to sign, like we said, three top guys, and it's just going to be a huge headache. So we'll
It's
see
almost
how it
it's almost
unfolds.
as
But
if the owner is just doesn't know what he's doing as the GM.
I think
Like
I've said that for the
Oh
last 10 years.
yeah,
like it's ridiculous.
he's
Like
going full on Al Davis.
he's
Rest in
going.
peace.
I'll take you. I'll go one step further. He's going full on Joe Biden.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
that's a pretty
Wow.
yeah. It's yeah.
I'm
Listen,
just comparing quarterback GMs, but yeah, NFL GMs. But yeah, sure. You want to bring presidential presidents into this?
well, on that note,
Spicy hot take.
we'll stick to we'll stick to another wide receiver that's being talked about a lot as well. Malik Neighbors is going to be a player to watch this season, especially in Fab's room at night. Fantasy
Yes.
Pros has him ranked WR 26 in PPR formats, so ahead of notable players like Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, McLaurin, Tank Dell, and George Pickens at rounding out at 32. So, question for you, Fab: are you buying or selling his current ranking right now? Which would be like low end 2, high wide receiver 3?
No, I'm not. No. I mean, honestly speaking, listen.
Wow.
Let's be honest now, right? First of all, I would not take him before George Pickens if I was presented with that position.
What?
Uh,
Wow.
yeah, no, I wouldn't. George Pickens, I think, is it's much more of a safer guy than Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors has that explosiveness, has that, like one cut, take it to the house type thing. I think it's going to be very, very electric for the Giants. I don't know how many receptions he's going to get. So from a PPR standpoint, it's a little bit more troubling for me.
That's the same with Pickens, though. Pickens isn't a PPR receiver.
I know, but I know what I'm getting with Pickens. That's the
Mhm.
thing. I'm talking about like what
Yeah,
it's a
but
known
Pickens, I think
commodity
Pickens makes
versus.
up for in the like those games where he had low receptions. He had a lot of yards and scored those, scored
See, that's
touchdowns.
interesting. That's where I started cutting one off, but that's where I feel like I would take Neighbors because of the way he plays. Like when we did the draft
For
stuff with
sure.
Neighbors, it's those
Yep.
3 levels: short, medium,
Yep.
deep. I see him having more of an impact there than Pickens, who I feel is just intermediate and deep. But
Yeah, I
I
don't know.
get you.
I'm gonna agree with Fab where I'm gonna take the 3-year vet that's now taken over as the number one with a far superior quarterback than he's ever had in his career. Right. Now,
Yes.
if we're talking, we just spoke about this with Drake London and Kyle
Yes.
Pitts, and like he's gonna have a guy who could throw him the ball
we love
Yeah.
way
Wilson now.
way better.
We
It's not
love
that I love Russell
we love
Wilson,
Russell
but
Wilson
but
now.
okay, but Russell Wilson or Kenny Pickett, like or
Guys,
Mitch
that
Trubisky, like who are you taking? And
I'll play
it's
I'll
not
play
it's not
devil's
even
advocate.
close.
I'll play devil's advocate. Daniel Jones was perfect in 7-on-7 OTAs. I don't know if anyone's talking about that. Like Malik Neighbors is going to be wide receiver 10, bro, this year. I'm just saying. No, but Nak, I agree with your point, and I get what you're saying because this is George Pickens. This is the best quarterback that George Pickens has ever played with in his career, bar none. Um, Listen, I like Malik Neighbors as a player, not like aside from the Giants thing and all that stuff. Like I think he's in a good spot where he can actually produce and shine, and no dissimilar to how Marvin Harrison Jr. will also be put into place. These guys were drafted to be the guy. Period. You can't say that about Roma Dunze yet because of where he was drafted and the wide receiver room that he's coming into. Malik Neighbors, he doesn't have any competition. Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't have any competition. So do I agree that they're going to be and I'm throwing Marvin Harrison Jr. in this as well, just because I feel like they're in a bit of a same conversation in that sense. But the difference for me is that the offense that the Giants have is hard to trust right now. And can I see him turning into a top 30 wide receiver at the end of the season? 100%. Would I be drafting him like that at the beginning of the season? No, not right now.
But
Not right now.
Fab, out of the list that the Knack mentioned, like who there are you taking ahead of Neighbors?
Uh, George Pickens, I think I've mentioned. You're not gonna like this, Roger, but I think I might take Terry McLaurin.
I was gonna say the same, man. You have the vet now
Terry
coming in,
McLaurin.
him too coming in like wide
Yeah,
receiver,
but
another.
Knack, this is where I have to disagree with you. And Roger, you're not gonna like this. Your hand's already up, and I get it. Terry McLaurin has played 5 seasons in the NFL. He has 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. His rookie season, he had 900 yards. This guy has produced despite having bad quarterback play. Now, are we under the assumption that Jane Daniels is going to be worse than what he's played with in the past? We don't know. However, the guy's produced with worse. So I would be I would feel safer taking Terry McLaurin on that team, and with Cliff Clinsbury as well, right, as the offensive coordinator with the Redskins.
Commanders.
Sorry, with the Commanders. Excuse
You
me.
keep saying Redskins. Wow, they're
Well, I
gonna.
don't think anyone, no one's gonna. This podcast is being done on the what the.
No,
Anyways,
don't do it. Don't do it. The only reason why I'm slightly buying is that he's so aside from Pickens and even McLaurin. Look, McLaurin there was some noise about Jahan Dotson taking over last year. A lot of people thought that last year was Jahan Dotson's
Yeah,
year.
and he shot the bed.
there you go.
Bad QB, but like guys, if we say get bad QB play for
You're
McLaurin,
right.
also say
You're
bad
right.
QB play for Jahan
100%.
Dotson.
You're right. You're
So
right.
for me, Zay Flowers not the number one option. It's Mark Andrews. T. Higgins
I
not the
agree.
number one option.
I agree.
Christian Kirk, don't think will be the number one option at this point. And Tank Dell definitely not number one option.
Who's going to be the number one instead of Christian Kirk?
Do we think that Gabe Davis? Yeah,
he was the number one option before Calvin Ridley. You think Gabe Davis is going to over?
Wasn't. No,
yes, he
was. They were on par.
Yeah.
They were on par.
Nah, man.
I looked at the exact number of targets. They were on par. I literally calculated them.
Okay,
like,
so now do you so then let's
and
compare
Christian
it this
Kirk's
way.
always injured too.
But let's compare it this way.
But
Ridley or Gabe Davis? Ridley.
What are we asking?
Ridley or Gabe Davis?
Ridley.
Who would? Okay, so we know that Gabe Davis is not on par with Kirk, right? Gabe Davis is not an 11 target guy a game, right?
Okay,
like he's that deep threat, like home run hitter.
Okay, so let's say Zay Flowers, T. Higgins, Kirk, McLaurin. I'm like, okay, 1,000. A lot of guys get 1,000 yards. Like
4 years in a row, man. Come on.
Okay,
I'm just saying.
So you're saying you see neighbors.
Hold on, let me finish.
You're seeing neighbors.
Okay. Let me finish. Okay. So Pickens, I don't like it in PPR because he's just going to be a deep threat.
Fair.
And all those QBs, all those guys. Yeah, I just don't see it. And for me, the big thing is LSU receivers. So LSU receiver rookie seasons, 70 catches, 800 yards. Michael Clayton, Jarvis Landry, OBJ, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, even Dwayne freaking Bowe had 70 catches and almost 900 yards. LSU receivers, when they come into the league as rookies, the ones who are drafted high, they ball out almost immediately. So for me, it's not that I'm super high on neighbors, is that the guys surrounding that him there are not super exhilarating. And also, I think it also just means that Fantasy Pros is horrible at doing pre-draft rankings.
But the QBs that you mentioned, sorry, Fab, I don't want to cut you off here. The QBs, the players you mentioned, their QBs were maybe a little bit better than Daniel Jones was, right? Or is. You mentioned a lot of players there, like Chase came in with Burrow. Jefferson came in with Cousins.
Yep.
Dwayne Bowe, was it Trent Green? Who else did you mention? You mentioned Eli Manning was in his prime with Eli. Like Eli Manning could still throw a ball, right? Like he wasn't, he's not the guy you think of top 10 QB all time, but it could have been a lot worse with OBJ. Jarvis Landry had the worst one. Maybe it was Tannehill. Was it Tannehill?
Yeah, with the Dolphins.
Yeah. Was he drafted there?
Yes, I believe it was a Dolphin, I believe it was the Dolphins. I'm gonna bet on Malik Neighbors creating more out of nothing, despite the fact that Daniel Jones sucks as a QB. I just
can't wait to see him in those jerseys.
I'm gonna take that bet. The Habs one.
Yeah, can't wait to see him in those jerseys.
I digress.
I'm gonna swag it out.
I mean, final point on this, and we can move on there. But yeah, Roger, I get all your points, and there is one thing that we failed to mention is that Daniel Jones does not necessarily go through his progressions very well. So if Malik Neighbors is the number one guy on his reads, he's going to get a lot of targets. So there's more of an opportunity than not for him to do. I don't know about top 26, but definitely do very well, I think, next year.
Fab, you remember when OBJ was drafted?
I remember
Slant taking it to the house. Like, that's
I'm going to tell you something right now that's going to shit all over my argument right now. When OBJ was drafted, Eli Manning was on the downhill of his career. And that just propped him back up into relevancy again. And I love Eli Manning. But OBJ helped Eli Manning a lot.
It was created. He created himself. He created those opportunities himself.
100%. And I love OBJ and I love Eli.
That's something that aside from maybe Zay Flowers, none of the guys there can do. None of those guys there are creative wide receivers where they're creating yards after catch and big time separation, starting from short to intermediate to deep.
Yep.
Look, potential is there, but am I drafting him that high? Probably not. Like we said, we mentioned there's a couple guys on this list that we draft before him, but let's move on. So there's been a rise at the tight end position the last couple of years. Been some nice young guns that have come in. Another nice young gun that was drafted this year. So Kelsey remains near the top of the rankings. He's ranked number 2 out of the tight ends. So Sam Laporta obviously is ranked number one. Um, so basically, are we buying or selling that, you know, ranking that comes in second or third round? Is he a second or third round pick, Kelsey, still? Or are you rather, take players with a little bit more upside, like a McBride, a Kincaid, even we mentioned Pitts a little bit lower down the chain. Like, are we really, like, personally, I don't know, man. I think, like, you saw it last year, right? And in the regular season, he had, like, his production kind of dipped. He's another year older. He made another a long Super Bowl run again. Body's been through it all. Uh, I personally don't think I'm comfortable with that second or third, like, it'd be late third round grade on him, because he's I think it's 28th overall they have him right now, so you'd have to probably grab him
Yeah.
late second, early third. I don't know. I might wait and try to grab a McBride or Kincaid with maybe considerably more upside, especially in those offenses. I don't know. I
That,
don't.
that's because you
Yeah,
think Worthy's going to get more targets.
yeah, Worthy, exactly. It's going all to Worthy. It's going all to Worthy. Those 2-3 targets a game he's gonna get. But no, I don't know. Like, is it me, or is it really, like, is it? I feel like it's time now that he's gonna have to take, like, an even bigger dip. Like, I don't. If he finished outside of the top five with what tight ends are right now, I wouldn't be shocked. Would you?
No, I wouldn't be shocked. Wasn't he mulling over retirement?
Nah, he was never gonna retire.
He did,
Wasn't that like,
but there was a report. I don't know how true it was, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't think I
like I
don't think
mean,
it was. I don't think it was true.
I mean, I in general, I'm not a fan of drafting a tight end very high, especially when the position is very deep, like it is right now. So for me, round 3, I would not be looking at Travis Kelsey. I would only be looking at, at what who's the top end guy we spoke about right now.
It was
That's probably
Laporta
yeah. I'll only be looking at Laporta, but he's not
or
going to be there. And but that's where I'm looking. But that's where my mindset is. Or Trey McBride or Mark Andrews, fine. But I typically I don't really target tight ends that high. And Travis Kelsey would definitely be a fade for me too, and definitely in round 2, probably in round 3. He's still going to be Mahomes' backyard target when the play breaks down or whatever it is, and they want to make something out of nothing. He's always going to be that guy, and he's always going to be solid for you. But if Mac, your point, like him finishing top 5 or like at 5, I wouldn't be surprised about that. I think that's a fair number.
he has to be faded. He's like a load management player now, like a guy who they reduce his snaps, reduce his workload, and then ease him into the playoffs. He played 775 snaps in 2023. That was his lowest in 6 or 7 years. And he only played 15 games, but even in 2020, when he also played 15 games, he had 900 snaps. So with the injury, they're easing him in for sure, and I think he'll get overdrafted due to name brand.
his
But
name. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, but
100%.
McBride, Ingram, Ferguson. I would still rather have Kelsey, but I'd rather take the value of taking guys in the lower rounds. So
I like
um,
Ingram a lot.
Yeah,
yeah, me too.
I think he
yeah,
could push himself into the top five this year easily.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's just got to stay healthy. Obviously, it's always been his kind of downfall, but had a tremendous season last year, and I don't know. I think,
Well, last year he finished second overall in tight end rankings.
was it second?
Total points, yeah.
Yeah,
that was
he had a
sneaky.
he had a
That
yeah,
was
yeah, no, he was
surprising.
he was really
Yeah.
good down the stretch. He was
Mhm.
like the main guy in Jacksonville. So, but yeah, I don't know. Me too. At this point, I think he's ranked just because of his name and where people tend to be picking him. But
Like he still had a great year. Like I looked, he still had like 93 catches, just
Yep.
shy of 1,000 yards, like 5 TDs. He still had a great year. But
yeah, for sure, it's the
how
TD production that was down.
On
that
a
and
points per game basis, he finished first.
that
Travis
and how
Kelce.
he's gonna get to there. And I think I was talking to Nick about it on your birthday, Fab. He's gonna fight for targets with Rashid Rice. Like the type of targets that they're gonna fight for, it'll be between him and Rashid Rice, more the underneath stuff. Which is why
Hmm.
I think Worthy can have a chance to have a bigger year.
So
Um,
so if Rasheed Rice is out for a predetermined number of games, are you giving Travis Kelce a bump? ish,
More
not that
so
I-
than
much.
now. More so
No,
than
like
now.
let's say like now we're talking about him maybe
would I
being in
take
the
a
third
bump?
round
Would I
pick.
take a bump with Kelsey? Yes. He seems like a type of guy who would take bumps for sure.
He has probably taken bumps for
Yeah,
sure,
for sure.
100%.
Hands down. He's
But
taking
like, how do you bump like maybe
Well, you just
my
you mentioned a
personal
few
maybe
guys.
my
You mentioned
personal rank? Yeah, but
you started
that's
off
more
saying you're
value.
fading him, right? That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, so are you still fading him as much if Rashee Rice is suspended for like let's say half the season, which is not.
For me personally, I think we all agree like we're not comfortable taking tight ends that high.
No,
You know, so it's all a matter of draft strategy and preference. Like I'd
Hey,
rather have the
unless
got you.
value later. You know, so
honestly, unless the value is there, I don't mind taking a tight
yeah,
end. Like I
exactly.
took one in round 5, and it was Andrews last year. So like
Oh, that's
my
value.
value was
That's
there,
value.
and
Yeah,
that's why I grabbed them.
hundred
Because
Sure.
week
percent.
2, I'm usually I'm usually later on tight ends. Well, that concludes episode 9 here, boys and girls. I can't believe we're already episode 9. That's really crazy. Yeah, I feel like great episode, boys. Please, everyone, I really appreciate. Please, everyone, please follow us on the social media, guys. On Instagram, Bush League Huddle. We're on X, on or Twitter, whatever you guys prefer. Please subscribe on YouTube, on TikTok. We're all over the place. You can listen to us on Spotify and iHeartRadio, as well as Apple Music. So please go listen to us, rate us, give us a 5-star rating. Please keep listening. I know. Thank you everyone for continuing to listen. It's been really fun so far, and honestly, more amazing things to come. So please like and share and subscribe everywhere. Thanks everyone, and we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye everyone.
Bye, everyone.